Hi, I'm David Gainey, and I'm a pastor of a local church. My wife Hope and I have been married for 27 years, and we've raised 4 kids in the area, and later took in a 20-something-year-old, and so we technically have 5 kids now. And we've worked really hard to be good parents, but we are not experts at this. I even spent time in the last few years working on a doctorate in how to train parents to do a better job. But the truth is, we're not experts. We've read a lot of books. We've had a lot of experience. We've worked really hard at this, but we're not experts. But I would like to share you a little bit today about what we have learned about parenting. A few of the really big do's and don'ts that I think are really important. A lot of people talk about the techniques of parenting and how to handle this or that. But what I want to talk to you about today is the really big stuff. The most important part of parenting that comes from the bottom up. One thing I often share in seminars like this is that the real problem with most kids is the parents. And that doesn't seem fair, and I don't mean that in a harsh way at all. But the truth is, most of the reasons our kids make really bad choices and become brats is because of the way we parent them, the way we damage our kids. And you know, honestly, we all damage our kids in different ways. And the way we damage them often determines the way they respond, particularly in ways that are inappropriate. You know, if you've ever watched any of the television shows out there like Super Nanny, you'll see that the parent advocate comes into the home, watches for a while, and then spends all of her energy on mom and dad. She has to retrain them so they recognize all the foolish things they're doing that actually produce bratty kids. And here's one of the biggest examples. Most of what we do as parents actually backfires. We reinforce the very behavior we don't want. Good example is, imagine you got a kid named Timmy. And a typical experience of parents is you're at someone's house, you're talking to the parent, Timmy's playing with a kid or kids, and it's time to go, and you come to Timmy and you say, Timmy, it's time to go. And how does Timmy respond? Well, sometimes the way Timmy responds is, you know, just a little inappropriate. He's like, oh, Mom, do we have to? I don't want to go. And then sometimes he just falls on the ground and throws a fit, you know, a 5'11" fire. And he's just like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm not finished. And then what do? A lot of times what we do is we say, 5 more minutes and then we have to leave. What are you reinforcing to your kid? You're saying, you know, if you complain enough, if you make a big enough stink, if you embarrass me enough in front of my friends, I'm going to give you whatever you want. That kid's going to remember that. And the next time they want something, they're going to use the same technique. Because they're training you. Now, we're responsible for letting our kids train us in those ways. So, think about this. The single most important thing probably I can tell you in a short time like this is to examine your goals as a parent. Your goals ultimately determine what you do. Every one of your goals does. I mean, think about the kinds of parents that are out there. Some of the parents I'm talking to would fall into the helicopter parent category. Helicopter parents want to control their kids' safety. Their goal is, I want my kids to be safe. So they try to hover over their kids and make sure their kids never get hurt, never get damaged. And in so doing, they damage their kids and raise kids to be insecure. And then another parent has the goal of their kids always behaving. That's what they want to control, is their kids' behavior. That's what I would call the domineering parent, which I've been a lot in my life. The domineering parent wants their kids to do the right thing no matter what. And so they use punishment in a threatening, coercive way to get kids to make the right choice. They're bullies, really. Some parents have as their goal their kids' happiness. I just want my kids to be happy. You don't control that, moms and dads, but you can try, and you become a permissive parent because the world centers around, at least your world, centers around your kid. And your kid realizes that they can have anything they want as long as they know the right buttons to push. And those kids grow up to be real big brats with huge egos that no one wants to work with. And then, of course, though they're probably not watching this video on parenting, there is also the passive parent. The passive parent is the one who just wants to be left alone, the one who doesn't want to be affected by the kids, the one who just wants peace. Their goal is, I want to be okay. And so they're very passive. You might be married to one of those, or you might have been raised by one. Those are some of the kinds of parents that I see. But the truth of the matter is, all of us have inappropriate goals. And what makes a goal inappropriate is that it's not about your behavior, which is the one thing you and I control. All inappropriate goals amount to trying to control someone else's behavior, a spouse, a friend, a neighbor, your kids. If your goals aren't about your behavior, they're illegitimate. And no matter how noble you think your goals are, if I came into your house and just hit pause in the middle of your parenting at any point in time, we would probably discover that about 90% of the time, your goals aren't very noble. If your kids are in the middle of fighting and you're raising your voice, if we just hit pause and you froze, your goal might be peace and quiet. I just want peace and quiet. At the dinner table, you might be trying to manipulate your kid to eat, and if we just hit pause, your goal is to get your kid to swallow their food. Or maybe the kids are fighting in the back seat and no telling what you're doing in the front seat, but your goal, if we hit pause, is to get your kids to stop fighting. Which, by the way, is a noble desire, a legitimate longing, but it makes for a terrible goal. Think about how many times we have goals like this. Hurry up. I'm going to be late. So often we're trying to get our kids to do something, and whenever we do that, our goals are illegitimate. So if we re-examine our goals, we realize our goals are ultimately the reason for all of our foolish parenting. So what I encourage parents to do is to reevaluate and adopt better goals. And of course, this takes a long time. You have to deal with your own junk. This is not something you can do overnight, because even if you write down really awesome goals, you're not likely to keep them for very long until you walk into the reasons why you have those goals. But because we don't have time for that in a short video, let me just say that a legitimate goal would be about something that you do, and only something you do. And you can word this in 100 different ways, but my favorite way to word it is this. My job as a parent is to prepare my kids for the real world. My job as a parent is to do what I can to prepare, to do what I can to get ready my kids, their choices are theirs, for life outside my house. And of course, I don't want my kids just to survive. I want them to thrive. I want them to be healthy, productive people who enjoy life because they're ready for it. So think about that for a minute. What would it look like for you to spend the time from when your kid is born till they leave the house, which will be age 18, 19, 20, 21, these days 22 and a little bit older sometimes. But assuming you can do it within the first 22-ish years, what does your kid need in order to be ready to thrive out there? Think about that. You could write down a list of all kinds of things. Well, they should probably know how to balance their checking account. They should probably know how to show up on time for a job, maybe drive a car, maybe fix a flat. They should know how to pay their bills on time. What does your kid need to know and be able to do to thrive? That's your job, moms and dads. You're like a shade tree. You don't want to over-punish or under-punish your kids. You want it to be just right. A shade tree, think of this. Your job is to be a shade tree. And when your kids are really small, you provide lots of shade. And as they get older, you reduce the shade until they have nothing. I mean, by the time your kid's ready to leave, you should really not be protecting them in any way. You should have given them total freedom to make their own choices before they even leave your house. Now, that doesn't mean choices don't have consequences, but they should have freedom by the time they leave. If you underprotect a child and you allow them to watch really horrible movies, you can do a lot of damage. Likewise, if you overprotect a teenager and you're hovering over them and micromanaging their lives, you're going to do damage. The art is to know how to reduce the shade in the right way. And that's really hard work, and it takes a long time, and none of us get it right. But that should be what we aim for. So I would suggest, as a parent, you think about how little activities right now are playing a part in that big picture. Moms and dads, for instance, if you're helping Timmy with his homework, and not just helping him learn the concepts, not just helping him think about the issue, but if you're helping him do his homework, what's the message you're sending that kid? You're teaching that kid that they cannot ultimately do anything by themselves. They're helpless to do important tasks alone. They need you. They are codependent on you. And if you're not there helping them, they're not going to be able to do really important things in their lives. I do a lot of counseling. And I see young people all the time in their 20s who live in constant anxiety over all kinds of issues. And when I get to the root of the issue, so often this anxiety comes from moms and dads who did way too much with them in schoolwork. And as a result, the kid grows up feeling, I can't do this by myself. And they don't feel like they're ready for the real world because mom and dad didn't instill them with the confidence that I'm going to let you do this yourself. So how do you do this? Well, the last thing I want to leave you with that's very practical is this. The best way to get your kids ready for the real world is to give them responsibility for their own choices. Let them take responsibility for the choices they have to make in life. And one simple way to understand this is for me to say it this way. Transfer responsibility, transfer the consequences of their choices from you to them. Let them have the consequences, the good ones and the bad ones. In other words, instead of you paying the price for your kids' choices, how about you simply let them pay the price for their choices more and more as they become older? One example is, one mom did this. She had a kid, we'll just say his name's Tim again, and he was a preteen, and he's always complaining that he doesn't like the clothes mom picks out for him at the beginning of the school year for the semester. And let's just say, mom usually goes shopping, and she buys clothes for Tim for all semester. And he's complaining and complaining, and she says, okay, here's what we're going to do, Tim. I have $150. That's what I'm going to spend. That's my budget for you for back to school. You get to decide how it's spent this year. Here's the $150. This is the cash. I'm going to go with you. We're going to spend it. And when it's gone, you have no more money for clothes. Not until Christmas. So, the kid goes to the stores and he's picking out his own stuff and he loves it because he's getting the freedom to choose. And mom's helping him saying, well, you should probably get some underwear and some socks and some shorts and some shirts. So he finds this one shirt that he really wants and mom says, look, that's really expensive. That'll take the rest of the money. And you won't have enough for socks. And you haven't bought any socks. And the socks you have holes in them. They're not really good socks. And you don't want to have like 0 socks until Christmas. I wouldn't buy this shirt if I were you because of that. So Tim says, I want this shirt. I love it. This is the best shirt ever. So mom lets him have the shirt. So he buys the shirt. And within a few weeks realizes he desperately needs socks. And he comes to mom and says, Mom, I really need socks. And she goes, I'm sorry. Tim, you spent your money on a shirt. And I told you you needed socks. And you ignored me. Look, this is the way it is in the world. When the money is out, you can't get any more stuff. I am really sorry. Maybe Santa will give you some socks for Christmas, but you're going to have to suffer until then. That's what it looks like to transfer responsibility progressively as our kids get older from us to our kids. And that is so important, moms and dads, that you get out of the responsibility and the consequences for their choices and you give it to them. Look, there are so many different stories I could give you, and we simply don't have time to explore them. But I have learned that this 15-minute information is just not enough for most people. Most people need to hear this and a lot more information in a setting where they can talk about what it looks like in their home with other parents. And I want to invite you to attend a retreat where we do just that. I have now developed this retreat, and I've been working on it. It was part of my doctoral project. I've been working on this, and it's really good. And now we do it every September. So it's coming up on September the 11th through the 13th of this year. That's a Friday night, dinner time in the evening, all day Saturday, and then Sunday until after lunch. It's a really powerful retreat. We'll go to Holy Trinity Monastery in St. David, and we'll spend that weekend learning about what it means to be a great parent. You can find out more information or register by going to oasisaz.com/register. Then look for the icon for the parenting retreat and click on it, and you can find out more information and even register for the retreat. And we would absolutely love to have you.